I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon and you're looking forward to an action-packed weekend. And if you can't get up for this game, then there's a lot wrong with you. It's Liverpool, Manchester United on Sunday at Old Trafford. And to talk about all that and everything going on in the world of Liverpool this week, I've got Emma Sanders, I've got Mo Stewart, and I've got Damian Kavanagh. We're going to focus more on Manchester United, Liverpool in part 4. We've also got a couple of inserts. We've got Neil speaking to Mark Gregory on his book More Than a Game. And we've got Michael Grace from Unemployable Promotions. That was easy for me to say. I was nearly unemployed myself then, on Liverpool Irish Festival, talking about some events they've got going on and also the fantastic Liverpool Irish Festival in general. But I thought, in part 1, first of all, it might be nice to reflect a little bit on Atletico, Damian, because it was some win. Are we making enough of it? Are we shouting it from the rooftops? They don't lose there, do they? And we came into town and we did them.
I think that's a great question, because I don't think enough has been made of it. That is a sensational result. The fact that you used to Liverpool doing well, used to Liverpool coming out of that stadium with a cup, the fact that it's only a group game and they all still might get through, etc., does not take away from the fact that that was one hell of a team we had to beat, who don't get beat on their own pitch, and we went there and did the business. And there was no excuses, and we had a couple of players missing. We started great, we went through some adversity. Other teams might have crumbled, this team didn't. So it was absolutely phenomenal, and a real statement, I think, by this team, by this club, to say, look, this is the sort of result that we're capable of in the second half of this tournament when it comes to knockout rounds. So shot right across the bows. I'm sure both coaches will have learned from that game about the gaps, because defensively, I think both coaches have moaned about it a little bit, because that's what you strive for excellence for. But what a fantastic win. It doesn't go down with one of those great knockout wins. It's not totally unexpected. I certainly thought it was, an even contest before the game. I was confident we wouldn't lose, but we more than did that. It was a brilliant result, and it really set us up.
Yeah, it does set us up, Evan, and I agree with that word statement. Damian's caveat that it is just a group game, so it's not quite up there with some famous sort of knockout wins, just because of the importance, I think, is a fair one. But in terms of the performance, in terms of what it does say, and I would say we've made the statements in Europe generally this season, not just in the week, but also the fact that we're on 9 points. We did have the group of death that everyone sort of painted it as, not unreasonably. I mean, it looked very tasty sort of when it was drawn, but there's very few teams on 9 points, a handful of teams on 9 points so far, and Liverpool are in there, and people will be looking around, I'm sure, around Europe and saying like, oh, Liverpool, they mean business this season in this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, apologies if there is a delay. I am actually in a hotel, so I'm using hotel Wi-Fi. I think it was a real statement. I think that was probably the main takeaway point from it all, was the fact that it was kind of a bit of a reminder. We were speaking at the beginning of the season about how pundits and, fans of other clubs were sort of writing Liverpool off in terms of the Premier League title. And I think that there would have been plenty of clubs around Europe perhaps forgetting Liverpool's dominance in Europe as well. So I think the fact that, they went to Atletico, put down a performance like that, kind of a little bit of an inconsistent performance, but yet still come away with the win and still do it in the manner that they did on such a stage like that, I think was a real statement.
Yeah, a real statement, Mo, and, like David says, puts us in a fantastic position in the group. I mean, I can't remember how many points I would have taken. Maybe no one was offering them me because that's not a real thing. But I'm sure I probably would have taken 6 from the first 2 games. I certainly would have took 7. I'm biting the metaphorical hand off for 9, Mo, because it puts us in a really, really good position, especially from 2 away games.
Yeah, I was just going to say we've got 9 points already. We've got a 5-point lead, and then we've got 2 home games to come. So the chances are, if we win both those home games, I believe we top the group anyway. To be honest, it could be all over after the next game. That's the thing. If we win and the other result goes our way, we could not only be qualified but top. So that means we'll have 2 fixtures to play with. But obviously, we've seen that before kind of work against us. So let's hold our horses on that particular thing. But you're right. In terms of a statement to everybody else, because in general, I think the rest of Europe probably still respected Liverpool more than England did, because they saw less of us being terrible. I mean, as far as the rest of Europe are concerned, Liverpool were terrible, but they still got to the quarterfinals, didn't they? Okay, that's fair enough. So
they ain't watching Burnley at home in January.
No, thank God.
Lucky them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in terms of our stature in Europe, that has remained, and obviously the levels of performance have returned as well. But it's weird, when we did the draw, we were kind of trying to talk it up and say that the draws where Liverpool have quote-unquote easy teams to play, we normally struggle through, it's a bit stodgy, and it's the ones where we've got to up our game week in, week out, where we do the best. And that's exactly what happens. And not only that, but it seems to be translating into league form. This like all competitions unbeaten record means that every time we step on the pitch, we know that we're facing a decent opponent and we know that we've got to be at our best. And it seems to be getting the best out of us as well.
Jürgen called it a dirty win, Damien, which I loved as a phrase. There wasn't enough dirty wins last season. There was a few dirty defeats, but not enough sort of dirty wins. And a return to that, is more like it, because you can't always blow the other team off the park, especially when they're as tough at Atletico and they know all the tricks and everything you get sort of when you go there. So some dirty wins on top of the eye-catching ones are very well indeed.
Yeah, there was certainly some mucky and downright filthy defeats last season, wasn't there? It was shocking at times, wading through the mud. But yeah, it's about the resilience, isn't it? It's about Liverpool being able to win different types of games, and that's what I think we are the best in our league at that. I do think, for example, like Man City, there's no one can beat it. No one can give out a 7-goal spread like Man City, and once they've got a team on the ropes, it's over, and it can really be ugly for the other team. But I think Liverpool can win different types of games, and that's the big thing, and that's why the Atletico win was such an important one, because it shows that Liverpool can go to Watford and not let them touch the ball, apart from when they have to kick off again after we score, and then they can go to a team like Madrid who will give it the give it the treatment, time waste, foul, gamesmanship, all within rights. Fair enough. The crowd's fantastic. All that, and it goes into the Lions' Den and still comes out, and you can feel like it was a bit of a roller coaster. You could say, they might have got a result there, but by the same virtue, they'll be looking at us saying, Jesus, they're dangerous. Yeah. What are they going to be like when they've got everyone back? What are they going to be like when it all runs their way? So yeah, if you win ugly. And I don't think that was winning ugly, that one. That wasn't like a boring one where we just tried to tough it out. But I do agree with the dirty analogy, because we didn't have complete control of the game. No. And I think that might be what he's alluding to. But even in those instances where we haven't got complete control of the game, we've got enough about us collectively to stay in there. And we've got enough about us with the individuals we've got. I mean, look at Alisson. He was absolutely magnificent, wasn't he? And then you've got players who can score fantastic goals. You've got Mo Stewart at the moment, who's running his own goal of the season competition this month. And that's what Liverpool have got, and they're the weapons that we've got that basically frighten everybody else. And you say the group of death. It was the group of death for the other three, because 2 of them are going out.
Absolutely love that. Is right. David mentioned Mo Salah. David mentioned Mo Salah there, Emma, and this one man. Competition for goal of the season. Only Salah is something that is people are having fun with online at the moment. It seems to be a bit of a sort of stock thing. But now we know only Salah has scored in 9 consecutive games for Liverpool. That is the latest. Only Salah, and he's a phenomenon, isn't he? He's absolutely brilliant, and he seems somehow to be getting better and better.
Yeah, and one of the things which I really love about Salah, which I think people doubted, not necessarily Liverpool fans, but outside of Liverpool, perhaps doubted in maybe his first or second season, was that he wasn't always kind of the centre of attention in terms of like the biggest stage, which is why I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can actually do on Sunday, because I think more and more now we're just seeing him be the man in all of the big games. And, we're very blessed in this Liverpool side that we've got a number of world-class players. You've got arguably the best right-back in the world, arguably the best keeper in the world, the best centre-back in the world, and it goes on and on. So when you are somebody like, Mo Salah, it can be quite easy to just become part of that level. But for him to still elevate each season, and for him to elevate it as an individual and also collectively within the team, I think is what is so impressive. It's so impressive for me. And I think it'll be really important for Liverpool on Sunday for him to step up in that big moment, because Man United as a team are nowhere near the level that Liverpool are collectively, but we know that they still do have a couple of individuals that can turn it on. But if Liverpool's individuals turn it on as well, then they've got absolutely no hope.
Absolutely. Yeah, loads of comments coming in, enjoying them. I like this one from Limping Monkey, who says Liverpool winning Atletico, dirty and wrong on so many levels, but like Mo's tash, it just feels right. Hang
on a minute. Like, is that meant to be a compliment or not? I'm still not sure.
I'd say it might be the old-fashioned backhanded one.
I mean, to be fair, I'm kind of going a bit early because I know it's still October, but yeah, I'm just trying a few things out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just seeing what works. You getting it in.
See?
Only Salah has better facial hair than Mo. I would also sort of agree with that.
Now we're back level.
In terms of the, I said at the top, Mo, are we talking up this result enough and this performance enough? One of the reasons why maybe we're not is that there's been a surprising to me amount of online discourse about our midfield. Everyone seems to want to have a big chat about our midfield, about Naby Keita, about what Naby Keita's doing, what he isn't, and the people using that as their stick to beat Jordan Henderson and James Milner with. It feels like we always need something to complain about, even when things are going well.
Yeah, it's really tiring, isn't it? I mean, come on. Like, I feel sorry for Naby Keita simply because no one is talking about his goal. Like, can we talk about that goal, please? From the edge of the area that went in top bin, and it's the second volley that he's put in the top corner this season. So, like, I mean, you can kind of run yourself around in circles. The fact of the matter is, no one looked at that performance and the way that Atletico were able to get chances quite easily in the first half and say, that was perfect. That's exactly how we wanted it to be. But that does not necessarily mean to say that, as discourse normally dictates, we have to distill it all down to one person. I think no coach will ever think that, there are some very, very small examples, but the majority of the time, no goal is the fault of one man. It's maybe one mistake and then another and then another and then another. And when you've got multiple mistakes on top of each other, that's normally what happens when you get a goal. Sometimes that's structural because you're seeing things happening again and again. Sometimes it's just the opposition doing something good. I don't think Jurgen Klopp's going to overreact on that. I think, if I'm being honest, the things that Naby Keita doesn't do well, i.e. he seems to dwell on the ball a little bit, concentration tends to be a little bit of an issue. Those things could be also an issue at Old Trafford. So that has to come into play a certain amount. But also on the flip side of that, I don't know whether or not he's carrying an injury or not, but we have noticed Jordan's energy levels drop before halftime considerably on more than one occasion. So I can see why people are making these decisions and conversations, but the reality is that in the wider scheme of everything, these are small problems. We have not been beaten for 21 games. So you can get upset and angry about all those things all you want, but they don't matter as much as the fact that Liverpool are really good right now.
Yeah, for me, Damian, the midfield wasn't quite working as a unit, I don't think, on Wednesday. But I take Mo's point completely that they've got really, really talented players who can make, anyone sort of, look ordinary when they sort of turn it on. Yeah. But he makes the change at half time. He goes for a more defensive minded midfielder. It's difficult to say, what an impact that had really, because the red card sort of so soon after it really, they could have continued to cause us problems, but then obviously that the red card sort of changes the game. But I'm looking at it at the, on Wednesday night and thinking that's a midfield where Fabinho's not deemed, quite ready to start, without Thiago, Curtis Jones isn't quite there. I mean, Harvey Elliott started the season midfield, he's injured, so there's plenty of quality in midfield for Liverpool at the moment, and it just feels to me that we need to remember that, and remember that in some games, like Mo says, the opposition, we're going to look, when they've got talented players, going to look dangerous as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of good points you made there. You've just gone through a list of players who aren't available for us, or haven't been as available as much as we'd like. So there's the first thing. Naby's such a talented player, but he hasn't quite hit those heights that we would expect him from him, and so that invites criticism. The players around him have all played numerous games and won all kinds of trophies. He hasn't quite played as many games to prove that. And so, people are understandably a little bit cautious about that sort of thing. The fact that Liverpool made sure that he took advantage of the other team going down to 10 men is a good thing. I'm a great believer in what you've just said there as well, by the way. I believe a lot of football fans should pay half price for their tickets because they only watch one team. And their team either played well and won, or their team played rubbish and lost. And you do happen to have the small matter of going into the Lions' Den with a fantastic team which has won big trophies that might actually be good and have done their own work at exploiting you. on the back of international weekends when you quite haven't got all your first choice players available, and we still navigated the win. To me, the jury's out on Naby. I think he seems like a likeable guy. He's not on the pitch as often as we'd like him, so he's got things to prove. But what a goal! What a goal! and it's not his first one either. So we either encourage. I don't mean blind encouragement. You've got to look at the good that's in him and hopefully play to those strengths. In life, some people concentrate too much on what people can't do rather than what they can. And the key here is no one, even above Naby himself, no one deserves Naby to be a success more than Jurgen, because he has really stuck with him and he's really put him in some high-profile games. And the lad's running out of time, really, to repay that and the fact that you want him to take it by the scruff of the neck. And so I understand, it's not like I'm sitting on the fence. I am genuinely undecided because I agree he's got the ability, but he's got to be on the pitch. And when he's on the pitch, he's got to prove it. But we're talking about Liverpool being at the highest level in world football of the trophy. We're trying to win the hardest league possible in the world. We're trying to win the hardest international club competition. So, of course, if there's a shortcoming that might be minute and a player who might be fantastic for somebody else, he's going to get looked through a different lens for us. And I think you've got to put that in context sometimes and look at Liverpool struggling along right up by the top of the league, unbeaten, scored more goals than anybody else, 9 points in Europe. These are first world problems, aren't they? And so there's got to be a bit of a level to that. But going back to it, we navigated a very difficult win. And on the back of international weekends, when you've got various players with various levels of training, match fitness, flying in here, there and everywhere, that was an extremely difficult one. And so I would indulge all of those lads who have done very well for us and say 10 out of 10 for getting us the other side of it.
Absolutely. I just want to touch on the goalkeeper as well. Emma, he is one that no one is on the fence on, I don't think. He's been a fantastic player for Liverpool ever since he came in, really sort of proved his worth the other night when we needed them, when they had some dangerous moments, and when they sort of managed to sort of get through on goal, he was there. And, he's a superstar, isn't he?
Yeah, I think I tweeted actually afterwards saying that when those kind of players step up on the big moments, so elite goalkeepers in the big games, it's just a bit of a reminder really of how important, elite goalkeepers can be. Because I think people forget, it's not just his goal saving, it's not just his, his communication, but it's also what he can do in terms of his distribution and then setting off the attack, and how important that is in terms of, Liverpool in the transition and how quickly we can overturn possession and build from the back. And he is absolutely the number one in that kind of, in that sort of focal movement. So there is so much more to Alisson's game, which I think we're just kind of so used to now that we take it for granted a little bit. There was a period where, Liverpool didn't really have a good goalkeeper. And then Alisson has come in and he is now, in my opinion, still the best in the business. So you go from kind of one extreme to the other. And when he pulls off saves like that, it's almost routine now. That I think that's why people don't talk about it enough, because we're just so used to him doing that and stepping up when he needs to, that, I think even the players on the pitch, even the defenders in front of him know that, yes, they can probably play a little bit more risky, because if they do give away a chance, then they've got the best goalkeeper in the world stood behind them. And I think that massively helps in terms of their own confidence and their own, I guess, ability to play risky football. And when you play risky football with world-class players, which Liverpool do more often than not, then that's when you can devastate teams. And I think that all comes from having somebody at one end of the pitch who is the best in the world, to the other end of the pitch in Mo Salah, who is the best in the world. So everything in between is then so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point by MMO in that, you imagine those defenders, how assured did they feel? You got to see that Kelleher did pretty well at the weekend against Watford as well, albeit a quieter afternoon, obviously, than Alisson had. But, they want the main man there, don't they? And it must be so reassuring if you're Virgil van Dijk, coming back after a bit of a break, to look back and see the holy goalie and just think, yeah, everything's going to be all right.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I look in the mirror every morning and I see this, I am reminding of it a little bit. I do add it and think, if I could just translate some of that into my world. But no, he's in a class of his own, and this is kind of provable. I think it was Dan Kennett put up some stats, and it was talking about passing percentage, talking about shot stopping, and talking about his ability to be a sweeper keeper. So basically coming out, anticipating attacks and cutting them off. And there's like tangible stats for all of them. He's the only one who is elite in all three. The only goalkeeper in the entire world who's elite in all three. And that's something that probably doesn't get recognized well. It's not just the fact that he can do that. It's he can do all of it as good as anyone. And so when you've got someone like that, and I mean, obviously last season that we know that he went through it on and off the pitch. So to see him back to himself, back to being someone who just exudes that calmness. And there are times when there's a bit of a calm kind of vortex between him and Virgil, where they're both too cool and they sometimes get themselves into a bit of a pickle because of it. But those things happen very small. I mean, my heart can't take them. But in general, having those two there is so good, even in the white-hot atmosphere of something like the Wanda. Like you say, there have been times we were on the rack at times in that game when they came back to 2-2 before they got to the red card. There was a real feeling where it was like, oh, you know, sometimes when you feel like your team could concede and then it could get away from you. And he just would not let it. He was just that absolute wall. So it's going to give the defense confidence. It's going to give the attack confidence as well. It means that we can go into tight games, big games, level at half time and still think, you know what, we're probably still going to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The confidence that comes from having elite footballers at both ends of the pitch. Fantastic stuff. Hope you enjoyed that. Coming up, we're obviously going to talk about Liverpool's huge game against Manchester United on Sunday. But before then, we got those two inserts I mentioned before. Neil speaking to Mark Gregory about his book More Than a Game, and also Michael Grace from Unemployable Promotions on Liverpool Irish Festival. So if you listen and there's a podcast, you're going to get that now. But if you're listening live, you get us straight in to Manchester United. So you know what's coming up the Reds. Everything okay? Okay, we'll go again. I've just remembered everyone can listen to that bit. We're still getting used to this tour live stuff, but we're enjoying ourselves because it's a Friday and Liverpool play Manchester United this weekend. And so, yeah, as I said before, if you can't get up for that, then you need to go and do something else. I'm still joined by Emma Sanders from her Travel Tavern setting. I've got Damian Kavanagh, who was brilliantly described in the comments as a logical bastard. Before. I've never seen.
Oh, nice one.
I've never seen those. I've never seen those two words paired together. There it is. I love it when David is on. Another logical bastard on here. Big up. There we are. I've never seen those words paired before.
Thanks, limping monkey. I'll grow a muscle for you.
And of course, Mo Stewart, more records than the KGB. And with all sorts of, and
they're all bangers as well.
I wouldn't expect anything else. You can hear them all in Motel at some point. I'm not sure when Mo is next on, but he'll be coming soon.
Tonight. Literally tonight.
There you are.
It's like literally 6 hours from now.
6 hours. Get your skates on. Everyone, get in the shower. Get your disco pants ready and get down and have a little bit of a boogie. Just want to mention a couple of things before we do the United thing. We've got these lovely mugs on sale. I'm showing them to our live people. It is people have wanted the famous get in. I'm struggling here. The famous get in phrase that Rob shouted at the end of it, or the start, of a post-match pint on something for a while. So we put them on a mug, so that is available to buy on the Anfield Wrap shop. We've also got the new Mo Salah top, which has just popped up on the live as well. They are selling like hotcakes. So I would hurry if you want one, because we can't get them in fast enough. We can't. Our friends at Wild Tank are printing like fiends up in Bootle, trying to get them all sorts of done. But yeah, it's they're going really well. Those. So if you want a Mo Salah top, it is the hottest item of this autumn. It appears. There you are. I think I can put my head on it if I'm careful here.
Do we get any freebies?
Anything for you. Yes. There we are. I'll bring one to the Clipper next time we're there.
Yes.
But anyway, enough of the nonsense. It's Man United on Sunday. I'll start with you, Emma. It's a big game, isn't it? It'll be. We talked about statement wins before in Europe. Liverpool probably haven't had one in the league. We've had some good wins, but we haven't beaten a team above 14th in the table this season. Manchester United, say what you like about them, are higher than 14th. So a statement win in the Premier League to follow up a statement win in the Champions League will be very nice indeed.
Very nice indeed. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think it's really important as well in terms of not just obviously bragging rights and the statement, but actually in terms of the points and being in the table, because the draws with Chelsea and City were fine, but City perhaps in that kind of, I sort of described it before on here as a little bit in my eyes as a kind of a 3-horse race, I think, sort of between City, Chelsea and Liverpool at the moment. And City are probably just ahead in terms of head-to-heads in that 3-horse race. So if Liverpool can get all 3 points at United, then that sort of, in my eyes, I think then absolutely eliminates them from any kind of conversation quite definitively in terms of getting anywhere near that top 3 for me. So I think there's more at stake than just obviously the natural rivalry and the statement side of it. I think in terms of points, Liverpool really need to go and keep their foot on the gas and sort of stay right up there at the table.
I'm loving this talk of eliminating Man United from the conversation. I wish we could have done that in the 90s a little bit more. But I mean, Emma's right, isn't it? Beat them on Sunday. They can't really, say with a straight face they're in a title challenge.
I don't think they're saying it now. I mean, what it is it proves that we're not their problem. Emma's right. We aren't their problem. And the thing that intrigues me the most about this game at Old Trafford is it's kind of a mix of the last 2 games, because you've got the atmosphere and all of the hoopla around it that you got from the Atletico game. And then you've got a team who aren't as good as Liverpool, have massive gaps in the midfield. And if we just play our team and play our football, we could embarrass them, like we did Watford. So it's a little bit like a mix of those things. Mentality-wise, I don't think we're ever going to really go into the game with that attitude, because I think Klopp and the players feel that's a little bit of disrespecting Man United in the history, and that's not something they've ever done. I wish they would, though, because we are that better than them. I really do. I really just wish they went in there and this is just Watford, lads. Or maybe not Watford, maybe Leeds. And say, you know what, it's going to be a feral atmosphere. We'll keep the ball for the first 25 minutes, shut them down, get a first goal. They'll be a little bit downtrodden. Keep them downtrodden, get the second goal before halftime, have a load of fun in the second half. We can do that. The reality is we probably won't do that, but we can do that. I want us to go on that pitch acting like we will do that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too, Damien. There was a comment earlier in the show, and sorry, it's dropped off my screen now, so I can't remember who it was, but someone saying that when we've played United and Everton, they said in the past maybe we've shown them a little bit too much respect. Liverpool need to show Man United the necessary amount of respect, but that shouldn't be too much. Liverpool are the better team, and I'd love to see a bit of a strut from our boys on the Old Trafford pitch on Sunday, and I think the value for it.
Yeah, defo. I mean, we're capable of anything there.
There he is, Jimmy Allen.
There you go, yeah. I mean, good shout, Jimmy. But the thing is, if you look at those 2 teams on their own pitch, no team hates us any more than them. And be under, no illusion that their fan groups can create a fantastic atmosphere. And at a time you mentioned the 90s before, at a time when we were half the team that Man United had, we were still able to do them at Anfield because of the unity of the crowd with the team and players playing at their very best. So I don't think Manchester United have got a great team, but they've certainly got some great players. But we've got some great players, and we're a great team. And we've proved, we've been into Lions Dens before, as been mentioned on here. Now, this is one of the ones, an old manager of mine who I used to enjoy playing for, he said, let's respect them, let's absolutely respect them, and let's go out there and respect them and then walk all over them. And I think Liverpool are capable of doing that as well. What you've got to be mindful of the fact that if it goes toe-to-toe and their best players are inspired by a fanatical crowd on a Sunday afternoon and it's really sticking in their claw that we could be the team going right past them here, then they could start well and we could get embarrassed. That can happen. Yeah. But if we go out there and we are first to every ball, if we are first to every second ball, if we keep our shape and we make no mistakes, they'll make one. And we've got the players to punish them. And that controlled aggression attitude is Liverpool's strategy here. And if it wasn't Man United, and if it wasn't Goodison Park, for example, I'd be very confident about us Liverpool being able to go there and dictate that. But the crowd does come into it. Yeah, I've got to say that. But Liverpool, if we can ride the waves early on, if we can meet the challenge. And what was key was, what came out from the Watford game was that the Man City were brilliant at Anfield the other week. Absolutely brilliant. And I think they'd beat anybody else in the world that day, bar us. and we did well, and we showed that resilience I was talking about earlier about coming back. But at Watford, it was clear that the team had got the message, and in Madrid, we start from the first whistle. We don't start from half time. And as long as we do that and we start from the first whistle, we've got more than enough. And if we don't, and they start faster than us, then we can be in a whole load of trouble. This is, it's a fantastic game. But Ferguson himself, he used to say about these things, play the game, not the occasion. Now, Liverpool are in that. Liverpool are at least as good as those teams that Alex Ferguson controlled in his pomp. And Liverpool are capable of doing that. So I am confident that we can go there and we can go toe-to-toe with them physically. And as long as we don't leave too many gaps and don't turn it into a basketball game early on, we'll get in. And once we get in, it's going to be a long time in the ring for them. If we're in front, we're going to do them properly.
A long time in the ring. I love that analogy. Did you watch them the other night, Emma? You probably did because it's your job and that.
Yes.
I thought it was, you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly from United in terms of the players on the pitch, but also the crowd as well. They were booing them off at half time, which happens when you're 2-0 down. In the game that you need to win. But then when they got one back, the crowd sort of really got behind the team, and it felt like that first goal sort of lit a fire, and the crowd sort of went with it, and that's what Liverpool need to be careful of, really, is that not to give Manchester United any encouragement. And I think that's what sort of Damian was referring to there, is the idea that, we can silence them and we can remind them early on just how much better Liverpool are. But also, if they get a bit of wind under the sails and they get a bit of encouragement, they've got good players and it is a big crowd, and they can make a difference.
Yeah, Damian was spot on. I think it's something that I've kind of said now for a season or two, is that I don't think you can disrespect some of United's individual quality. I think, we haven't really spoken about Bruno Fernandes, and we all know what he can do as well.
Oh, he's injured, haven't you heard? Along with Harry Maguire, who's played twice already. He was meant to be out the Liverpool game.
Yeah, well, there we go. It's the classic. The whole team is injured ahead of the Liverpool. But yeah, I don't think I don't think anyone is obviously surprised by the quality that Ronaldo has brought, but I'm perhaps a little bit surprised by, and I don't know why, but I almost didn't expect him to single-handedly carry the team through so many wins as he's done so far. And actually, I don't think you can underestimate the kind of idolism that he has within Old Trafford. And if the crowd get behind him personally, and he is a guy who wins at all costs, then obviously, those individual moments of brilliance are going to be a threat. And it's just a case of Liverpool making sure that those individual threats are limited. So don't let him get the ball. But by doing that, the best way to not let Cristiano get the ball is by playing Liverpool's strengths, which is, getting the ball out wide, getting it to Trent Alexander-Arnold. Therefore, Ronaldo spending most of the time in his own half. And Trent is exploiting that space, which he's leaving him behind. So I think Liverpool are at a time now where they go to Old Trafford with enough world-class players that if they're on their A game and they're playing towards their strengths, then that actually kind of automatically diminishes United's strengths, because they're having to defend. And 10, 15 years ago, it was the other way around. It was Liverpool having to sort of defend United's strengths, whereas Liverpool individually now are that good that they can afford to kind of forget about the Ronaldos almost, as long as they keep the ball and play absolutely to their own ability. So yeah, I completely agree with Damian. If Liverpool turn up on the day, Liverpool are winning that game of football, and that's it. End of.
Yeah, I just got me excited at the idea of our fullbacks having a lovely afternoon at Old Trafford. They're going to have to do a bit more tracking than what they did against Leicester, that is for sure. In terms of team selection for Liverpool, then, Mo, what would you go for? There was a question before that I've lost again. Not very good at this. Someone saying, would you go for Jota or Firmino? There he is, Nandon. Someone's flying for me here. I think it's
almost like there's someone doing it for you.
And it's a good job, isn't it, Mo?
Yeah.
Christ. It's good. I think it's Spanish Mick doing bits next door. Would you start Firmino or Jota? Mo, I will say I'll be shocked if it's not the same front three that started the last two games.
Yeah, me too. I think they've both got a part to play. I think one of the best things about the two of them is that they do different things and offer different problems to a defence. I think Jota is going to be more of an advantage when you've got tired defenders, and they are going to be tired because, as whoever it was said, they're definitely going to have to press more than Leicester, not only because of the fact that it's Liverpool, not only because of the fact that the crowd's going to be on their back, but because literally every single media outlet has been talking about how little pressing they do and how bad they've looked. There's no way they're going to let that stand. Even Ronaldo himself, he's going to put in a few extra 3-yard sprints. I hope he puts in a lot more 3-yard sprints, because that's the whole point. The reason why he's able to win the games late on is because he's done nothing earlier. It's like, make him work. Like, I know that he looks good, but he's still 36. So we've seen that if we can make him work early on in the game, he's going to be less effective at the end of the game. So that will be our tactic for me, 100%. But yeah, in terms of Firmino, I think that he's got that intelligence. So I think United are going to try and be organised. They're going to try and stay back and not give Liverpool a sniff. Firmino is the king at doing that. He's just able to draw them into clumps. So we saw it against Watford again. There were so many times where there was 3 Watford players around him, and then the ball went out and bang, bang, bang with someone else's space. You mentioned the fullbacks. Like Robbo, he's going to have, like, Old Trafford's a big pitch already. So he's going to have plenty of space to run into if that's the case. So I'm like you guys. I just think what we do well is going to be too much of a problem for them. And one other thing I was going to say, off the back of what you were saying about United and them getting up a head of steam and the crowd and all that kind of stuff. Like, this might be me tempting fate, but that really doesn't bother me. Like, seriously, you know why it doesn't bother me? The last 2 times we went there, they took the lead. They didn't win. Like,
yeah, fair.
Them having to come back is what they're good at. Like, them being in front is not what they're good at. So if it's 1-goal Man United lead in the last 20 minutes, I'm thinking Liverpool are going to win, because let's not forget that 1-1 2 years ago, we should have won that game. But we had the chances to win that game afterwards. So the psychology of United is clawing back something that they should never have given away in the first place becomes this great victory. I mean, Liverpool and Man United in the midweek, we let go of a 2-goal lead. They clawed back a 2-goal lead. We both won. Who's going to really feel better about that? I think it's us.
Absolutely. I have just realised it's Harriet who pulls the comments in, so apologies, Harriet. You're my fave. Nice one for that. I'm just worried about getting out of here alive, to be honest with you, David. But anyway, nice one. It's all new to all of us, isn't it? David, midfield then. You'd expect Fabinho to come back in for the big game.
Has to.
So who would you be playing alongside him?
Jordan. I think the 3rd spot is open. It's interesting to see Klopp doesn't mind going faith with a player, does he? And is it? I don't know. Is Oxlade going to get that chance?
He did all right the other night, didn't he?
He did, you see, and that's what I'm alluding to, in the fact that you wouldn't necessarily, a couple of weeks ago, you wouldn't even be considering him as 6th in line or whatever. But a couple of injuries in and a decent performance away in the Lions' den, and it's like, well, go ahead, lad, more of the same. I've got every faith in you, so that wouldn't surprise me, not one bit. I think it's about as likely as anything else, given the current availability of everyone. And it's an area of the pitch that we need to be in control of, because if we control it there, I mean, it's so hard, Liverpool's midfield, isn't it? We've got the best goalie going, we've got the best attacking lineup, we've got the best fullbacks, got the best centre-back, got a boss partner next to him. You've got to look at somewhere where you think, is there any weaknesses or whatever? And those lads have to do so much work, and it might just be about the legs, and it might be about who's fresh. And if he thought Milner was fresh enough to go through that and old man it right through there, then sound. So, as long as you see Fabinho and as long as you see Henderson, I'm a little bit relaxed about who the 3rd person might be, and I don't mind if it's Oxlade, for example. But he's got to be right up for it. So here's his chance. I like the idea of Bobby starting before. You're talking about that because he can drop back into that midfield if it's all hands on deck. If they start we want them to blow themselves out. Yeah. So if they start like that, Bobby's more naturally suited to dropping back and giving us an extra body in midfield. But equally, if they don't start like a house on fire, he's more likely to unpick a lock for us. And Jota off the bench, you'd never see me arguing with that, because he's a real goal threat, isn't he? So there's a lot of options there for Liverpool. I don't think we should make too many changes. Fabinho is a must, an absolute must. I would be really worried about us if he didn't play. But if he plays, I think it would be... He's the epitome. If he plays well, Fabinho plays well on Sunday, Liverpool win. It's as simple as that because of what he's got around him.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Who are you going for in the midfield, Emma?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines as Damien. For me, it's absolutely Fabinho and Henderson, and then the third one. Yeah, again, I was quite keen actually on Oxlade-Chamberlain before. I was thinking about this at the start of the show, just because I think his last couple of cameos have been really impressive actually off the bench, and I do think this kind of game is made for him really, where he's kind of he's given a bit more of a free role and a bit more of a creative role, and he's a kind of player that will take it on the edge of the box and just have a go, have a bit of a pop at goal, and silence the crowd a little bit, make them take a little bit of a step back and go, oof, that was a bit close. I think he's a type of player that could do that. But I also think Curtis is absolutely the same, and we've seen Curtis. I think his ball retention has just come on leaps and bounds as well over the last couple of months. So either one of those two, I'd be happy with. But it wouldn't surprise me if Klopp sticks with Naby, just because, like you say, he wants to keep that fluidity in midfield, and if he's already making one change in terms of bringing Fabinho in, then yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But if it was up to me, it would be Oxlade-Chamberlain would get my vote.
Quite a lot of shouts for Curtis in the chat here, Mo. Nandon saying he'd start him along with Fabinho and Henderson. The Wolfman going through the same midfield. Ethic boxing, Fab, Hendo and Kurt. It just shows how highly regarded he is by our fans now, all over the world, and, people who appreciate him, and also the fact that you won't be surprised at all if the manager throws him in.
No, I wouldn't. And I think it's all down to his level of fitness. If he's able to start and ready to start, I would not be surprised at all. To be honest, I have him ahead of Ox in the queue. I do agree that his last two performances have been encouraging, but I do think there has to be context there. Obviously, we were playing against 10 men midweek, and so we were playing against a team that aren't going to be threatening from an attacking perspective as much as we expect Man United to. As I mentioned earlier, I am still a little bit worried about Henderson's engine. So with that in mind, I would want someone with a bit more energy to be the third man. So I take Curtis over Ox in that context. If Curtis isn't fully fit, then I've got no problem with Naby. I think that, I say I've got no problem with him. As I mentioned earlier, there is the concentration thing. Hopefully someone can sit him down and just be like, maybe explain that maybe he doesn't know about Man On. Maybe they don't have that in Guinea or in Germany. I don't know. But again, if Naby starts, I would expect him to play well. I think he can play well in this fixture. Me personally, I would probably go Fab, Hendo, Curtis. But I would say if this game wasn't Man United, I'd probably be resting Henderson.
Okay. Off to learn what Man On is in German. Just shout at the weekend. But before all that, Damien, are they going to win on Sunday?
Yeah. I am confident, yeah. Like I say, I do respect them, like I say, but I respect Liverpool more. Absolutely.
Emma, are they going to win?
I think so. Yeah. I just can't see past a Liverpool win, to be honest. If Liverpool turn up, like I said before, if Liverpool turn up, then 3 points are theirs.
What do you reckon, Mo?
We're going to win. The only thing I'm not sure about is whether or not they'll score. I think they might. As I said, they took the lead in the last two. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do. We've obviously got to factor in as well. I know we don't like talking about those things, but the ref. Madness happens in those scenarios.
The referee from Greater Manchester.
Yes, that's the fella. So we can't rule out a goal that comes from weird circumstances, but we score 3 away from home. That's what we do. So 3-0, 3-1. Take a pick.
I'll just say, basically, I mean, my dad used to, God rest his soul, used to manage our football team, and he'd always build a team, and he'd say, get a team that can score 3 goals, because there's always the unstoppable shot, and there's always the cock up. So you can't legislate for everything, but Liverpool are good at scoring 3 goals away from home, aren't they? Let's take that encouragement. We have got enough tools in our box to deal whatever they throw at us. So as long as we're on form, we're better than them. And on Sunday, we're going to prove it.
Is right. Love all that. Chris Brack's been on as well, saying "Man oof" is German for Man On. So there we are. I'm off to shout "Man oof" in motel to let Mo know that Craig's on his way to pester him.
Oh God! Yeah, that's very handy actually, and Josh as well. Josh, he's been slipping of late. He likes to act like he's the cool, responsible one, but yeah. Josh, I'm on to you.
Manuf tonight, Mo. Let me tell you, Manu format. Listen, hope you enjoyed the weekend. Steve on the comments before was encouraging everyone to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. I agree with Steve. It's a fantastic time to do so. The content this weekend is going to be lit. Let me tell you, tomorrow, Fuad has put together a compilation of Anfield Wrap post-match shows from all our wins against Manchester United, which is as beautiful and as sexy as Fuad himself. So you want to get onto that tomorrow. And then on Sunday, we've got the bus. It's the Kiev/Madrid bus going to Manchester, which is hopefully a bit more achievable in terms of the toll on our bodies. But yeah, we've got the bus on Sunday because we want to make some really, really good content both before and after, hopefully after the big Liverpool win. So yeah, it's a brilliant time to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe to do so. But in the meantime, thanks a lot to Damien, thanks to Mo, and thanks to Emma. Thanks for you guys for joining in on the live chat. Enjoy your weekend. Up to